Hello, I'm Bekkiflaherty, and today we're continuing our mini-series of classic patterns in Procreate. We'll eventually be working our way through all these patterns over the coming weeks. We've already made this diagonal stripe pattern, and today we're making this beautiful Ikat pattern. I'd only ever seen this word written down and never heard it spoken until I came to do a bit of research for this video, and I decided I should double check the pronunciation.
Ikat.
And I'm glad I did, or I would still have been pronouncing it Ikat, just like I would read that. So yeah, I'm still probably not pronouncing it properly, so I do apologise, but this is my best attempt at saying it. So Ikat fabric originates from Southeast Asia, and it's actually a dyeing technique used on the threads that are then woven together to make the fabric, and the pattern that was very carefully dyed into the threads is revealed as the pattern is woven. It's so incredible when you see how intricate some of these patterns are. You should definitely Google the technique to see how it's made. It's a fascinating process. So we're going to have a go at recreating that style of pattern today in Procreate. This is an intermediate level pattern as it has quite a few different steps and techniques, but to help, I've got a few free resources for you which we'll be using today. You can find them both in the Pattern Maker's Toolkit. The first is this Procreate canvas template that I've made for you, and then the second one is this Ikat Smudger brush. So you can find this template and this brush in the Pattern Maker's Toolkit to help you make this pattern. So once you've downloaded and imported these both into Procreate, we're ready to get started. So I'm going to turn off the drawing guide to start with. And we've got our folder here with the guides. We've got this center guide here, and then there's another one here which will eventually offset. These little diamonds here, these aren't all perfectly lined up, and that's to give it a bit more of a kind of a random handmade sort of feel. I didn't want this to be like too geometric. It should still have a little bit of individuality, so that's why these aren't completely evenly spaced around there. So the one we're going to work on first is this center one, and these are all in a locked group. You've also got this layer here which has a reminder for the liquify settings we'll be using later too. So the first layer we're going to draw in is this draw here one, and this already should have assisted drawing turned on for you. To do the drawing, I am going to be using my colouring crayon, but you can use any brush that has kind of like a soft edge on there. So if we go to the sketching, you could probably use the Procreate pencil or the HB pencil, or from the inking set. You could probably use any of these brushes here and they would also work, and also give you some slightly different effects as well. But I'm going to use this one here because that's the one I'm used to using. And for the colour, I'm going to start with this orangey colour there, although apparently it's brown according to Procreate. So in this draw here first layer, this has got drawing assist on, so I can only draw in straight lines on this. So I can't draw off to the side, I can only make straight lines. And that's so that we can mimic the threads that go up and down. What we're going to do is just fill in this middle section here and this little one in the middle with these little strokes like this, mimicking threads of the fabric like that. You want it to be not too perfect, a little bit messy. It's good to have some of these kind of spilling over the edge there, and we're actually going to go in a minute and put some lighter colour spilling back into this to give it an even more sort of jagged edge. So we're just going to fill in all of this section here with these little vertical scribbles, except they're not even scribbles really because they're all going the same way. They feel too uniform to be called scribbles. These little strokes. So just go around and fill all these in, and it's as if we're putting the threads that go up and down the fabric. If I was smarter, I would have googled whether these are warp or weft threads that go up and down, so maybe I'll just put that as a little graphic on the screen. There we go. So once yours is at this sort of stage, then we can do the bit in the middle. So use smaller strokes for this bit so you can keep being precise enough with it. There we go, and then when we have that, then we can move on to this one and grab the lighter colour. And I'm going to turn the background off so that we can see where we're drawing on this. So on this layer above, this should have drawing assist on. We're going to come in and just break up these lines a little bit with this brush. So we get a little bit more of a jaggedy edge in there. At the top here, be careful that you don't go all the way up to the edge. So if you go like that, you're going to need to undo it. You want to make sure that you don't come all the way to the edges on this. That's going to help a lot with blending this later. And again, on the edges here, you don't want to go off these edges at the side either. And then when you've got the ones around the outside, we're going to fill in this area around the middle as well. And as you make these, you'll be able to experiment with like what level of kind of distress and imperfection you want to have in this, and what different effects you can get with different brushes. And you might want to make some like where you really hack into this with that, and then you might want to have some where you leave it more even like that. So then once you've finished tracing over these two, we can group those together by swiping right on both of them. Then we can duplicate that group. We hide this one underneath, and on this one I'm going to use this and clear the layers, as that's quicker than adding 2 more layers and adding drawing assist to them. So we can then trace over. We hide this one, the center one. We're now going to trace over the to be offset group. So on the bottom layer, we're going to draw with the orangey brown colour. And on this one, you don't want to go all the way to the edges either. So we're just going to draw this strip around there, and then we're going to draw over the top and into the edges with the white colour. So don't go too near the edges, and we'll offset this and finish off the corners in a second. So down here where I've drawn the edge, what I'm going to do is just erase back into that, because I don't want any of these lines going off the edges at this stage. So this now needs to be offset. I'm going to hide my guides so it's not too confusing, and on this layer we're going to put a mark going off each of the corners. This has still got drawing assist on it, so you won't be able to do a diagonal mark like we normally do. So just make sure that you've got something going off this edge, that edge there, and then this edge and that edge there. Then we can duplicate this layer, snap it over to this side, and snap this one over to there. Then we can pinch those together, and we can just bring and finish that bit in the middle, and then we'll know those two will be seamless there. Then we can duplicate again and put it back where we just had it a moment ago, like that. So now we know that these two edges are seamless. We need to sort out these two corners now. So we'll duplicate again, snap it down to the bottom there, and then drag this one up to the top. And then here we just want to bring this point of this diamond up and the point of this one down, so that we've got a seamless join at the top there. And then we can put that back where we had it by duplicating and snapping them to the outside edges again. We'll leave these marks on there because we'll have to do some more offsetting later. So we can put the guides back on now, and then on this layer above, we can use the lighter colour to make the diamonds and to cut into the edges a bit. And again, when we're working on this one, we're not going to go all the way off the edges with this. So I'll start with the diamonds in the middle. And then we'll use this lighter colour to just cut into the edges here. And then on these edges, we don't want to go over the edge there. We're just going to come in and stop before we get too close to the edge there. And then the same on all these other sides. Let's hide this one and turn off the guides and the background, and then we'll be able to see a bit more easily what we're doing. Actually, I could just make the background a different colour. Let's make the background pink. And then we want to put that same mark on the corners of these so that we can offset it. So we're going to duplicate this, snap it to the side here, duplicate this and snap it to that side there, pinch those together, and then we can finish up this little section there. Then duplicate it, put it back over to the sides again, every time making sure that you can see those orange lines there. Then we're going to duplicate it again, snap it to the bottom, and take this one up to the top, pinch those together, and then again we can just carry on this diagonal line there. And then put that back how it was a moment ago. There we go. So once you're at this stage where you've got your two groups illustrated, we're going to duplicate each of the groups and flatten them. So duplicate this one, flatten that copy, and then this one here, you turn it on, duplicate and flatten that copy. We'll move these up to the top and we can hide those grouped ones. So let's hide this one for now and we'll start by working on this one. We're going to use the liquify tool to add some wiggle and some wave to these. So I'm going to turn the guides back on. This has got the liquify settings on there. I think that because I saved this as a Procreate file, the liquify settings that I used when I made the file should be saved, and on yours when you open it, you go to adjustments, liquify, you should have the same settings down here, but in case you don't, they're there in the guides. So size 60%, pressure 30, distortion max, and momentum 10. And then all you need to do, I'll zoom in so we can see it on this, is just scribble over the drawing, and it adds that nice little wiggle and wave to the brush strokes and makes them look a little bit more like threads, I guess. So just scribble over the whole thing with this until it's looking how you want it. If you decide you've taken it too far, you can press the reset and that will take it back to normal, but I'm not going to do that because then I'll have to do all that again. So once that's done, tap up here again to set that. And then we can hide this layer and we can work on this one. Turn the guides off now. And with this one, we're going to have to liquify it in sections so that we don't get bits with hard edges. So on this one, we'll go to the adjustments, liquify, and we'll do the same, but we're not going to go all the way to the edges with this. I have to do this one in stages, unfortunately. So once you're happy with that, we can duplicate this layer, snap one half over to this side, one half over to this side, pinch those together, and then we can liquify this bit in the middle. Take alpha lock off there, don't know how that got on there. Then we go to liquify, and we can just do this part in the middle. Then we can duplicate this again, put it back how it's meant to be now. Pinch those together, duplicate again, and then we need to get this top and bottom in the middle, so that we do that by offsetting vertically, making sure that you've got these always snapping into place there. And then we can go to liquify again and just do this part in the middle there. And then this time we're not going to put this back where it was because we actually need to offset it one more time to have it in its final resting place, as it were. So now we're going to move on to the smudging. So I'm going to duplicate each one of these and I'll group these down here so we've got them to go back to, and we'll work on these two up here. So let's start with this one in the X shape. So you want to go to your smudger brush and use this Ikat smudger. And I'm going to turn the background to its final colour now, which is this light grey colour. And we can turn off drawing assist for these as well now, so that we can smudge in all directions. So turn off drawing assist for these now. And then on this one, we're going to use the smudger brush to add this fabric texture, and it's going to kind of smudge the darker parts onto the light bits here and also smudge the light onto the darker parts. So we're going to go and just scribble over this, keeping away from the edges, because if we smudge it to the edge we're going to have more hard edges to deal with. So we'll just scribble all over this, and you want to scribble all over that so that you've got some of that lighter texture over all of your orange and some of the darker texture over all of your cream colour there. Then we can duplicate this, tap transform and snap half of it over to this edge and the other half over here, hide what's behind it in the group. And this is where it's actually going to be, but as you can see, we need to bring it down to the middle so that we can smudge these two bits in. So once you're in this stage, we duplicate, snap it down to the bottom there, duplicate and snap this one to the top, pinch those together, and then just carry on and smudge this one last piece here. Then we can just repeat what we did, duplicate that, snap it down to the bottom, and snap it up to the top there. And then you can merge those together. So then this one with the dots, if we look back at our to be offset, it shouldn't be over the top of what we drew, it should be to the outside of what we drew before, if you want to check that you've got this in the right place. So once you've got this in its final position, it should be to the outside of what we drew in the first place. I'm going to hide the background colour and I'm going to erase these marks in the middle there. There we go. You can turn the guides off again now. So that's in its final place. Now we need to work with this one underneath. So I'll turn this one off, and on this one we do the same thing, just smudging this one as well, being careful not to go all the way to the edges with this. I know there's a lot of steps and offsetting in this one, but it's good practice for being accurate with the snapping, and it is essential, because if you don't do all that offsetting, you're going to have like weird hard lines around these edges when we put the final pattern together. It is worth it, I promise. So once this is all nicely smudged and blended, we can turn that one on, turn this one on, and then this one here in the middle, we're going to offset that and put it in these edges. So we're going to put the marks on the corners, and let's do it in a really obvious colour so we don't miss them. So I'm on this layer here, and I'm going to put a mark off each corner, duplicate that, and we're going to snap it down into the corners, checking we've got those orange marks there. There we go. See this one, I took a bit of extra time to get it in the corner there. Then those top four you can pinch together and get rid of those marks in the middle, and although we can't see them, we'll get rid of the ones on this layer as well. And then for the layer order on this, you want your diamond one on top. If you have that underneath, you're not going to see those diamonds there. If you wanted to use this pattern without that diamond layer, you could have a different kind of pattern just by hiding that all together, and that would give you this in repeat. But I'm going to put that on top on mine. And then these two, you can experiment with which one you prefer on top or underneath. Then we can group these together, duplicate and flatten that, and that is now our pattern tile. And if you spot any other bits where you didn't quite smudge it enough, or you feel like it could do with a bit more, you can always go over those and give those a smudge. But if you go up to the edges, if you wanted to blend any of these bits anymore, or if you went to the edge, you'd need to re-offset it. So when you're doing this final bit of smudging here, just be careful that you're not going past the edges. There we go, that is our finished tile, and now we can test this and put it into repeat. So this layer here, I'm going to duplicate that, hide this one to keep that as a copy. I'm going to tap transform, and I'm going to snap this up to the middle there, and you want the width and height to be 1500 and 2000 pixels there, and that means we've snapped it exactly into this corner. Then you can duplicate it, drag it over here and snap it into this corner. And then if we change the background colour to something dark, we are going to see bits of this showing through, but it will allow us to just zoom up and down the middle here and make sure that we don't have a seam, like there's no solid dark line going down there. So we know that's looking okay. I'm not going to worry about these because the background is meant to show through on those bits. So then we can pinch these top two together, duplicate, and snap this one down to the bottom, fluff off my lovely new jumper there. Then we can zoom in again and just make sure we haven't got any weird hard edges going along here. And that's all looking okay. Change the background colour to what it's meant to be. And then that shows us that it's all working properly. I think I'm going to put it just one step smaller. So I'll pinch those two together, tap transform, drag it up here again, and I'm just going to repeat those exact same steps again. And there we go, that is our pattern in repeat. There's obviously loads of different ways you could take this. You don't have to always use the template here that I've made. You can come up with your own designs, like I said, have a look on Google and see all the different beautiful handmade designs there are right there, and then have a think about how you can adapt those to make in Procreate. But the technique, the kind of the stitches using Drawing Assist, then the liquify, the offsetting and smudging, you can use those to bring your own designs to life. So I really hope you've enjoyed making this pattern and that you do have a go. So yeah, I know this one is a little bit tricky, but it is worth it because you get this lovely, beautiful pattern at the end. If you have a go at making this pattern and you share it on Cara, don't forget to tag me at bekkiflaherty so I can see it. Don't forget you can get all the resources for this pattern to help you make it over in the Pattern Makers Toolkit. The Pattern Makers Toolkit is kind of like a Patreon group, except it's free. You get access to all the resources in the Pattern Makers Toolkit on my website, including those I make for my Skillshare classes, early access to some of my YouTube tutorials and drawing prompts, discounts in my Etsy store, and one new freebie exclusively via email every month. And I only send out one email per month, I promise. And lastly, if you want to see more pattern tutorials like this every week, then don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube. Have fun, stay creative, and I will see you next time.